Where do I begin with this one? Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Maybe that's a good place to start. At least I know I can't go wrong with that shit. But obviously I think I'll start off with the most important thing, which is Tommy Robinson, who has been sent to jail for 18 months after he pled guilty to contempt of court. Cue the NPCs coming into the comments to say he pled guilty in 3, 2, 1. Because that's, let's face it, that's what they're going to say first and foremost. Sent down by one Justice Johnson. Well, I would stick an in front of the Justice, and I would call him Giant Johnson, because he certainly is a certified dick. And I know people are going to be like, well, he only gave Tommy Robinson 18 months. He could have easily gone down the path of 2 to 5 years. I don't give a fuck, quite frankly. There's a whole load of ways that Injustice Giant Johnson could have gone about this. He could have given Tommy Robinson a fine. He could have suspended the sentence. I know this one's a bit of a long shot. He could have even, if he saw that the only justice that would be had is if he was cleared of all charges, he could have done that. But no, he didn't. 18 months. Though if it's 40% of sentences now rather than 50%, at least he'll only have to serve, oh God, I've got to get my maths out, and I should be better at this. About 2 months off of that. I'd probably say about 7.2 months. So, basically, now I'm having to do more maths, 30 weeks in jail. What I find particularly disturbing, though, and this is probably an angle that most people are not going to approach this by. Now I need a compass to know which angle I'm coming in. Anyway, this angle is the time. So, when you saw those protesters at the Southport riots, when they were pleading guilty, they got a third off their sentences. Yeah? See where this is going? Tommy Robinson only received a 10% reduction. So you can be a supposed violent protester, or even a non-violent protester, waving a placard, exercising your lawful ability to protest. You can knock off a third of your sentences. But if you're Tommy Robinson, just 10%. Take it or leave it. But I suspect 8 months off of the prison sentence would have been a bit too much for Keir the traitor Starmer, who I have no doubt in my mind is still looking under his bed, worried he might see Tommy Robinson. But I digress. I will also ask this of Injustice Giant Johnson. Where's his jury? Surely Tommy Robinson has a right to a trial by jury. Nope. God forbid Tommy Robinson get a jury, because I'll tell you this much, the vast majority of that jury would find him not guilty. He'd be out of that courtroom, just like that. So of course, it is down to an injustice at this point. A judge. Judge dishonourable. And while I accept, you probably could say Tommy Robinson is banged to rights about where he's mentioned about Jamal the Bully Hijazi, or, sorry, I've forgotten his fucking name now. Jamal. I'll just call him Jamal. Make it easier for myself. Because I don't need to make life harder. I do a good enough job of that shit myself. Anyway, Jamal was basically a bully. Indubitably picked on girls, boys, whoever he could get his fucking hands on. The evidence was there. Tommy Robinson put out the covert recordings and the evidence. You know, the same evidence that they claim Tommy Robinson had none of. That all the children that were basically testifying against Jamal, I think it was actually Hijazi. But anyway, those people who testified, Judge Nick, I can't remember his surname off the top of my head, he said the children who testified against him, against a compulsive liar, they were all lying, but Jamal was telling the truth. I think it was Nick Jocelyn. Again, no justice. But I digress. There was evidence to showcase that Jamal was not the innocent schoolboy that the media trumped him up to be. And why is it that Tommy Robinson was given an injunction on this shit? Well, that comes down to fear, I'm afraid, folks. Because you remember the three things about the video he put out? Fear, lust, and loathing. Well, they feared Tommy Robinson's truth getting out. Because the moment that gets out, which it did, suddenly Jamal's credibility disappears. Just like that. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks. Because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. That film that came out was basically exposing the truth, which the mainstream media were told. They were told, but they chose not to report. Lying through omission. Now, last time I checked, the media can be held to account under Section 2 of the 2006 Fraud Act, fraud by false representation, which means the mainstream media, who may not have been under Keir the traitor Starmer's control then, but they are now, they have broken the law, indubitably. They broke the law by committing fraud by false representation. Why haven't they been sent to prison, Oh, that's right, the classic rules for thee, but not, rules for thee, but not for me. That classic bullshit. And I know some people are going to be thinking, you're letting your emotions take over. No, I fucking ain't. Because I'm one of the very few people who can argue the logical side and push the emotional side. Because unlike the mainstream media, I can tell the truth, and when I fuck up, I put my hands up and admit to it. The mainstream media, you'll be lucky if they apologise for anything. The mainstream media would rather double down, triple down, quadruple down, and put the casinos out of business. Anyway, they would rather double down on all that shit, rather than tell the truth or apologise. They would rather get angry at people who are justifiably angry at nonces walking out without a prison sentence. They would rather continually, libelously slander ordinary British people as far-right extremists. I don't know about you, I didn't see 200,000 far-right extremists at that protest. I saw 200,000 fucking patriots at that bloody protest. Not one thing went wrong up there. All the nonsense came from the left. There was even a left-wing agitator that infiltrated. But the security and the stewards soon took out the trash, didn't they? Where will you hear that in the fucking news? Oh, that's right. They won't tell you, will they? All the mainstream media and the rags are clambering all over each other to see who can put out the first hit piece. Oh, Tommy Robinson pleads guilty to contempt of court. Sure, bud. Do you know what he's really guilty of? Telling the fucking truth. That's what he is put in prison for. The contempt of court is merely a coincidental thing they can pin on Tommy Robinson. That's all. Has anything been done about Nick Lowell's? Sorry, I don't want to mix the two up. But has anything been done? Stroke number one. Has anything been done about Nick Lowell's, the hate not hope leader, who has been caught indubitably spreading racial hatred and inciting violence? I am sick of the mainstream media constantly lying to us, telling us, oh, Tommy Robinson's guilty of contempt of court, yet they won't report the real truth out there, will they? No, Keir the traitor Starmer would do everything he can to keep the truth from hitting the front page. Hell, I'm already seeing people having that documentary that was aired yesterday being taken down from YouTube. I even had one of my posts taken down this morning by the fascists at YouTube, who are trying to stop me from saying this important piece of information, so pin up your ears. Don't worry, don't use paper clips. Anyway, pin up your ears. I'm about to school you. I'm about to showcase to you two cases. One of them familiar, one maybe not so much. Anybody remember Lizzie Dipshit? Sorry, I mean Dearden. Or maybe I was right first time. Lizzie Dipshit Dearden, who also broke the same contempt of court reporting restrictions over a Leeds grooming gang case. She broke the same restrictions. She had her independent company face a £10,000 fine for breaching those restrictions. 2 people put out pictures of the killers of James Bulger. Yeah, the 2-year-old child who got murdered by 2 teenagers who were still basically practically children. Those 2 released their pictures. They got suspended sentences. You see where this is going? And now we have a case of contempt of court. Twice now this has happened, where Tommy Robinson, who the first time it happened, back in, I think it was it 2016 or something? I'm not talking about the one in Leeds, because that one's pretty obvious. I'm talking about one time where he didn't know at the time that if you stand on the land of the court and you try and film, they can take you away, just like that. Arrest him, contempt of court. Now, he spent money with one of the leading lawyer firms to learn all about contempt of court. So that then, when he did record the case outside Leeds with the Muslim grooming gangs, which have now all been convicted, although one of them, I think, even fled the country, he asked the officers, is this the land of the court? Officer said yes, so he didn't step on it. That was when they devised a strategy to get Tommy Robinson locked up by trumping up a charge. Sorry, Trump, I don't mean to upset you. I'm just making a joke. I don't mean it to be at your expense. Anyway, they trumped up a charge of breaching the peace. Obviously, Tommy Robinson breached no peace. He merely asked the Muslims who were coming out of court, already been found guilty, they were just going to be awaiting their sentences. He asked them, and I quote, "How do you feel about your verdict, sir?" End quote. But because he's Tommy Robinson, police put up that charge, a fake charge, then changed it to contempt of court. And they sent him to prison within the hour, just like that. A kangaroo court case, which they then had to rule later that basically what they did was unlawful and that he has his right to appeal this. And then when they had his court case again, they found him guilty and then they said, time served. But that's something the media are very reluctant to tell you. That was the second time. He was jailed basically for quoting information that was already in the public domain, which the BBC themselves willfully lied about Tommy Robinson pleading guilty about the contempt of court charge, which he never fucking did. Everything was already in the public domain. Again, the media don't want to tell you that. And this third case, while you could argue the toss that on several Rumble streams he mentioned this information that was unmentionable, and I know some people will be like, no one's above the law, legal issues and all that shit. But here's the cold, bitter truth I know a lot of you wankers won't want to accept. The real reason he's in there is because he was reporting the truth and the corruption in the government. That's the real reason. This contempt of court is merely a good get-out clause for you. He gave Keir the traitor Starmer a bloody nose, and he didn't even have to throw a real punch for it. That's the greatest thing. He has bloodied Keir the traitor Starmer's face, and he didn't even have to commit a single act of violence to do it. Because Keir the traitor Starmer has been proven indubitably to be one of the main causes of those Southport riots. Politicians not listening to their people, continually and openly defying them, trying to reverse Brexit, trying to get us into ever closer ties with the EU, even though we voted in the Brexit referendum. 17.4 fucking million people voted Brexit. And they want to overturn that. They want to overturn the biggest Democratic vote in history, while Keir the traitor Starmer was voted in on the lowest majority. They want to send Tommy to prison for contempt of court, when realistically it was merely for telling the fucking truth. That's really all it comes down to. I know that must have a lot of you left-wingers absolutely seething right now, because you'd love to be able to bloody our faces, but the only way you'd be able to do that is if you came up and physically assaulted us. Not that I'm advocating anybody to do that shit. The bottom line, though, with what I've said, in a more calm and rational manner, is that Justice Giant Johnson could have easily given Tommy Robinson a suspended sentence. And I think, you know what? I think a lot of people would be semi-happy with that shit, because at least Tommy would be going straight to jail. Like, well, nobody else has ever in political history. No one else in British history has ever gone to jail for contempt of court. There have been people who have been given suspended sentences, but nobody in our political history has ever been sent to jail for contempt of court. Only Tommy Robinson. Lizzie dipshit Dearden, £10,000 fine for her company. The two people who released the pictures of the James Bulger killer, suspended sentences. Tommy Robinson, twice now. Contempt of court, instant jail time. Just like that. I know some people, as I said, they're going to be happy the fact that Tommy Robinson only has to serve 9 months in prison of the 18 sentence, or more like 7.2 if the 40% still holds. Though I'm sure Keir the traitor Starmer would like to change that all of a sudden. Wouldn't surprise me. Mind you, that's just speculation at this point. But Tommy should not be in prison. At least not immediately. If you want real justice, apply the law stroke number 2 fairly to everyone. You don't get to pick and fucking choose. That's the way I look at it. And as I said, people may think that I'm using my emotions. No, I'm using logic and fact, and I'm putting out my emotions. Logic and fact to put out my point clearly, factually, ideally punctually, and then I'm using my emotions to basically showcase how the British people are feeling right now. That's the thing. Men can multitask, believe it or not, and they don't have to pick up a can of beer and change the TV channel to do it. I know, it's shocking. It's a revolution, isn't it? But if that's all men can do, then I'm truly fucked, because I can't drink beer. Anyway, the point is, they could have easily approached this in a different manner. But no, because of who he is rather than what he's done, Tommy Robinson is instantly sent to jail. I can convey my emotions and put the logical facts out there. Unlike a lot of people, I'm not going to sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. I am not going to mince my words. I will say exactly how it is, and I will do my best not to bullshit you. Because unlike a lot of the shills in the media, I've got the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to be able to say it how it is and put the facts out there, which the mainstream media refuse to do. And as I said, by willfully lying about a lot of the shit that's been going on around this case, the media are guilty, unequivocally, of fraud by false representation. If somebody had the guts to take the media to task for this, we could bankrupt the media, just like that. Because they would have to answer to the law. They would have to face justice. So I implore the police and the Crown Prosecution Service, why don't you go after the mainstream media? If it's money you're after, you could milk shitloads out of the mainstream media. You could probably get enough money to fund the NHS, or even the police services, or the Crown Prosecution Service, or you could build more prisons. I guarantee you, you could easily do that off the mainstream media's back, because they are unequivocally guilty of fraud by false representation. It just comes down to you. Have you got the guts to prosecute them as you have got the guts to persecute Tommy Robinson? Thank you. Oh, dear me. But here's the thing. Keir the traitor Starmer himself will have to face justice. We'll see to that. If we need to, we will drag him out of the houses of treachery. I mean Parliament. Or maybe again I was right first time. Or 10 Downing Street. Whichever way works. We will drag him out of that fucking building. Kicking and screaming if we have to make sure he faces justice. Because he has indubitably broken the law. He's broken electoral law. He's broken freedom of speech. He's broken human rights laws. This man needs to be put in jail. Oh, and more importantly, he's broken traitor law. Oh yeah, the same law that Tony the war criminal Blair rescinded just before he went to Iraq. What a coincidence. I wonder when Tony the war criminal Blair will face justice. And it needs to be done by an independent organisation, not some cooked up shill organisation that'll cover the arse of the Labour Party, but people who actually understand what being impartial and unbiased is, which our mainstream media and our crooked two-tier establishment and police are certainly not. They have so many counts of fraud by false representation. As I said, if the police took the mainstream media to court, they'd go bankrupt, just like that. You want to fill that fucking £2.3 trillion black hole? That would be a good place to start. The mainstream media, the mainstream rags, Keir the traitor Starmer, Tony the war criminal Blair, Alistair the turtle never flush Campbell. Yeah, because he constantly preaches on about we should show politicians respect. No, politicians have to earn our respect, and these traitors certainly haven't. And I tell you what, if Nigel the phony Farage and Richard Mice Tice and Anne lost her wits Widdicombe had actually done any fucking research onto the Southport riots and Peter Lynch, they'd still have some damn respect. But they don't. They lost it. They lost their respect the moment they called him a rioter, in Anne Widdicombe's case, for waving a placard, which does not contribute to being a rioter. That is someone who's practicing legal protest. And what about Richard Mice Tice, who said that he doesn't want to be associated with, quote, Tommy Robinson's lot? And then there's Nigel the phony Farage, who has repeatedly slandered Tommy Robinson's supporters and Tommy Robinson himself. As far as the Reform Party are concerned, they could go and fuck themselves, quite frankly, because they have lost all credibility and respect in my eyes. This broadcast has been cancelled. Yeah, you can fuck off right now. There's no way I'm going anywhere. Anyway, the fact of the matter is that people like Richard Tice, Nigel the phony Farage, and Anne lost her wits Widdicombe, they don't understand what it means to be a true patriot. They don't understand what it means to be working class. They don't understand what it means to be passionate about your country. They don't understand that Peter Lynch was not a rioter. When you have a placard, it usually means you're going to a demonstration. When you're overturning cars, setting car shops for stroke number 3, cars on fire, shops on fire, smashing up shop windows, setting buildings on fire like the police station. Those are the actions of a rioter. Last time I checked, I don't think Peter Lynch did any of that shit. Yet they had the audacity to sentence him to 2 years and 8 months for participating in violent disorder. No, he fucking didn't. He exercised his right to freedom of speech, which is protected under Article 10 of the Human Rights Act. And that is something that the Dishonourable Richardson, Jeremy, would do very fucking well to remember, because we'll be holding him to account for that shit when he goes to court as well. We will have justice, one way or a fucking another. We will see to that. Mark my words. And that is not a threat, that is a fucking promise. We have had enough of all the traitors who want to sit in power and only serve me, fucking me. We've had enough. Time to take out the trash, metaphorically speaking. That protest that happened on the 26th of October, Keir the traitor Starmer, that's us being very kind to you right now. Because, as I've said many times, you should be thankful we haven't revolted. You should be thankful there hasn't been a violent revolution yet, traitor. Because if we were anything like what we were in the 13th century and the 18th century, when these revolutions kicked off, or sorry, the 19th century, my apologies. Even I make a mistake, but I digress. But if they were anything like they were back then, you'd have been long gone. You would have been out of power, just like that. Because we wouldn't have put up with your treachery and deceit. You would be out on your arse. Most likely, you'd even be in jail, or even hanging from the gallows, under the treachery law. I am voicing facts and expressing my emotions of what every Indigenous British person is thinking right now. Nigel Farage and Richard Tice, they don't want to associate with patriots. Fuck them. Fuck them to hell. You have got like 3 to 6 months at the absolute most, Keir the traitor Starmer. I think you'll be out long before then. But I reckon the cold bitter truth, which people may not want to accept, and as I said, and I'll be absolutely clear, I don't advocate for it or want it. I don't think any of us want it. But a violent revolution will come in the next 3 to 6 months. Guarantee it. There'll be a revolution because people will realise we can't have this traitor in power any longer because he's screwing our country too badly. That's the bottom line. We want it to be peaceful. I sure as shit want it to be peaceful. I'm the last person who wants to see violence. But the cold bitter truth is, the longer Keir the traitor Starmer stays in power, the more likely the revolution will happen. And then he really will wish he resigned. Because these people will want his head on a spike. These people will want blood. They will want justice. And if the police can't give it to them, they're going to take matters into their own hands. And then there will be blood flowing on the streets. And when that happens, Keir the traitor Starmer will have more than Peter Lynch's blood on his hands. He will have the blood of an entire country on his hands. He will be the first Prime Minister ever to cause a revolution.